So here we are, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Except we were going to make a terrible mistake. Not in content, but just because the calendar. We thought we had hoped, I think it was going to be about Jesus saying to his disciples, I used to be with you for 3 years, but now, after the resurrection, I'm going to be within you, we had hoped. Because then we could talk about Mother's Day, which it is today, and we could talk about the withinness of motherhood. Anyhow, we made a mistake because it's not that at all. It's got to do about the Good Shepherd. In fact, John chapter 10, 1 to 10, here it is. Let me set this before you plainly as I can, says Jesus. If a person climbs over or through the fence of a sheep pen instead of going through the gate, you know he's up to no good. A sheep rustler, thief. The shepherd walks right up to the gate. The gatekeeper opens the gate to him and the sheep recognise his voice. Now, I know nothing, but from what I've read, you park your sheep in a sheepfold, a big thing. And you've got your own bit in there. You've got to park them in there because at night time things might happen to them if you left them outside in the open, even if you had a fence. So you need to have like a caravan park, but this is a park for your sheep flocks. Now, I hope I'm not making that up because it sounds good to me. Which means that in the morning you have to go up to this sheep park and the bloke at the gate knows it's you and he knows that you're entitled to go in and lead your sheep out through the gate. So if a strange person comes up to the gate and says, I want me sheep, and he can't recognise you, he won't let the bloke in. That's his job. So that's what he's talking about, I think. Anyway, you're in. He calls his own sheep by name and he leads them out. When he gets them all out, he leads them. And they follow because they're familiar with the voice. They won't follow a stranger's voice. But they'll scatter because they're not used to the sound of it. They're frightened. So Jesus told this simple story, but they had no idea what he was talking about. Now, whether it was because they weren't shepherds, they were fishermen. And I presume it doesn't work with fish, that's why you've got to throw a net. If you just stand on the seashore and whistle up your own fish, well, I presume that's the end of the fishing industry. But that's what he said, I'll be explicit then. He said, in other words, I'll spell it out more clearly for you, comrades. I'm the gate for the shepherd, for the sheep. All those others are up to no good. Now, he's referring to the clerics, of course. Others would have hoped he was talking about the Roman occupying army or some of the corrupt business persons who were taking advantage of the ordinary Jewish people, as they still are around the whole globe, especially if there's trouble on and there's an occupying army. Well, then some persons, either visitors or locals, will in fact use their business skills, rightly or wrongly, to take advantage of the situation. So Jesus is saying, I'm not talking about the army, I'm talking about especially the clerics, who in fact are leading you astray. All of those others are up to no good. Sheep stealers, every one of them, but the sheep didn't listen to them. I'm the gate. Anyone who goes through me will be cared for, will freely go in and out and find a pasture. So maybe there are no undeserving poor Maybe it's just poor, no deserving, undeserving, which we tend, unfortunately, to discriminate against the undeserving poor when we're making budgets, Commonwealth, state and local. And even the church, I think, well, I don't know whether it's too all over the place, is a bit inclined to discriminate against the undeserving. Anyway, he says, if you're one of mine, you're one of mine, whether you're deserving or undeserving. So a thief is only there to steal and destroy and kill. I came so they can have real and everlasting life, more and better life than they'd ever dreamed of. So that's the brave new world that in fact is the gospel world. I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd puts the sheep before himself, sacrifices himself if necessary, which it was, of course. Hired man, not a real shepherd, etc., etc. He sees a wolf coming and he runs for it, leaving the sheep to be savaged by. He's only in it for the money. The sheep don't. Anyway, Mother's Day reckons that the mother is in fact the good shepherd. In fact, we would have said the other one was with the children, the family, including the husband, but is now within them. Isn't that what people say? Even soldiers, male or female, dying in the battlefield, so often their last word is mother. See? It's an all-pervading safety net. So if you can work that out, the shepherd thing, I suppose you don't have to live in the bush. Various parts of the world, presumably, although you can't presume it now, they're not using Google Plus, because all over the universe people at least are using mobile phones. So who am I to say if you're not using Google Plus? Anybody wants to say anything, by the way, you'll have to slam it on soon, because I've got to go down the street to do a baptism of a baby. And we'll try to answer your questions, or to, no, they don't have to be questions, who am I to answer your questions, but have comments or whatever you want, so that it is in fact a hangout where we can discuss things. So the Mother's Day link with the Good Shepherd I thought was all right. And funnily, strangely enough, as far as I understand it, is where bishops in Roman tradition, including the Anglican, I think, have long sticks, what do they call it? The thing, anyway. Crozier. And it's got a hook on the end of it, and it's supposed to represent, and at the end it's supposed to have a point on it, because it's supposed to represent the shepherd's, what they call crook. It's unfortunate in English, because in English, I mean, if you say it's crooked, you mean it's bent, and the person is a crook. And in fact, it's no good to anybody else. But the shepherd's staff, I suppose, call it, got a point on the end so you can prod the sheep. Get in there for your own sake. Prod. So sometimes I presume mothers have to prod. Don't put your hand on the hot plate. Prod. And the other end of it, of course, got a hook on it. I think a thing is like that. Now, allegedly, as far as I know, that is the sheep got caught in the bush. The sheep got caught in the fence. Therefore, you better have a long thing. Put it round the sheep's neck. Gently or ungently, I don't know that it matters, because sometimes you have to have tough love if you're a mother. Put the thing around the neck, drag, hopefully, not yank, out. Although you would yank it if it's in immediate danger, wouldn't you? See, tough love. Put her, out she comes. And so as the bishop's walking down the aisle of his magnificent cathedral, to the sound of organ music and choirs, and see, he might have tickets on himself. But that stick thing, even though it's made of gold, it's got diamonds and God knows what in it, it should remind him that in fact his main job is to protect, even if it's with a bit of tough love, but to protect and to shepherd the flock. I'd say too that he should do a job in secular society, not just amongst his own flock, but there's another flock that needs to be attended to too. Now, whether he can go and attend to the other flock outside his own with this stick on that, maybe he'll have to go and do what Jesus did, which is be crucified for the sake of the same as mothers are crucified by their loved ones, intentionally or unintentionally, beside the point. The fact of the matter is that goes with the territory, I presume. So Mother's Day started by a woman called who? Anna Jarvis, the founder of Mother's Day, it says here, says she hated Mother's Day because it turned into a commercial thing. And interestingly enough, the apostrophe up there, see, mother apostrophe S Day, not mothers with the apostrophe. In other words, she was meaning it to be a recognition of the individual mother, you see, who never got recognition, rather than a recognition of the collective. That's interesting, see, because I would have gone the other way and said, being an old bloke and having no children of my own or a wife or a lover, probably go the other way and say, oh, it's all about the collective, whereas in fact the founder meant it to be about the individual. See? So anyway, happy Mother's Day to you all, especially to carers, whether they're male or female, or transgender, or who, if you're looking after your mothering. And I suppose you can at least feel as though we love you, whatever about anybody else, including the ones who you love, and they don't return it. You've still got to give it, even despite all that, because you're the mother. So I hope we survive and we meet again next week.